Jack has been in Appalachian history for almost 200 years. And there's one story in particular that I like, and I thought I would tell it to you. Now, way back in Appalachia somewhere, almost 200 years ago, Jack had to go get a job. Now, something I need to tell you about Jack is this. He was a good kid, very obedient. And no matter what his ma told him to do, he would do it to the letter. Now, that sounds good. However, with Jack, sometimes the results were a little bit strange. Okay, so as I told you, he had to get a job because the family was very poor. He got a job working for the farmer. So that first day that he went to work for the farmer, he helped rake the leaves and clean out the gutters because it was the fall of the year. Well, at the end of the day, the farmer said to him, "Jack, my boy, you done a mighty fine job. Now I believe in paying my workers every single day. Hold out your hand." So Jack held out his hand. And the farmer put in a quarter, a whole quarter. Jack said, "Thank you, sir." He'd never seen that much money before. So he started walking home, and he was throwing the quarter up in the air and catching it, throwing it up in the air and catching it. Well, he walked home alongside a creek, and there was one place where he had to cross over on this little makeshift bridge, and he was still throwing the quarter up in the air and catching it, and he stumbled, and the quarter fell into the creek, and the water just washed it away. Jack felt a little sad, but oh well, he'd be going back to work tomorrow. When he got home, his mom said to him, "Jack, honey, where's your pay?" And Jack told her the story. And she said, "Oh no, Jack. Oh, Jack, honey, you know what you should have done. You should have put that quarter in your pocket. Put your pay in your pocket." "Yes, ma'am," he said, "next time I'll do that." So the very next day, he went back to work for the farmer. And this time, he helped the farmer's wife milk the cows. Split, spat, split, spat, split, splat. And at the end of the day, the farmer said to Jack, "Jack, you done a mighty fine job, so I'm going to give you this here pail of milk. Tastes real good. Fresh milk with fresh cookies." "Thank you, sir," said Jack. And he started walking home. But then he remembered what his ma told him. Put your pay in your pocket. So he took his overalls, poured the milk into the pocket. Oh, how it tickled as it trickled down his leg. And then he went to the other side and he poured the milk in that pocket. And again, it tickled as it trickled down his legs. And he went sloshing home with milk in his shoes. When he got home, his mom looked at him. "Oh, Jack, honey, how come you all wet like that?" And he told her the story, and she said, "Oh, no, Jack. Oh, Jack, what should I tell you? Tomorrow, whatever the farmer gives you the pay in, you keep it in that thing, okay?" "Yes, Ma. Next time I'll do that." So the very next day, Jack went back to work for the farmer, and they poured the cream from the milking into an urn, and they churned and churned and churned until it turned into butter. And then they scooped out the butter and made big balls of it. At the end of the day, the farmer said, "Jack, my boy, you done a mighty fine job. Now I'm going to give you one of these here pats of butter. But first, take off your cap." So Jack took off his cap, and the farmer lined it with grape leaves and then put that big ball of butter in there. And he said, now, Jack, you better run home because you know what? You don't want that butter to melt. No, sir. No, sir. And thank you, sir, said Jack. So Jack started running, but it's no fun to run when you can't swing your arms. So Jack put the butter with the cap on top of his head. It was a warm day, and the butter started oozing down his face and then all down his clothes. And when he arrived home, his mom said, Jack, honey, how come you look so greasy? And he told her the story, and she said, oh, no, Jack. Oh, Jack, you know what we do when butter gets warm and soft? We put it in the spring house so the water can kind of keep it cold and make it all firm again. Okay, Ma, next time I'll do that, said Jack. So the very next day, Jack went back to work for the farmer. And this time he raked the hays and helped to make big, big haystacks. And at the end of the day, the farmer said to Jack, Jack, you've done a mighty fine job. I got something real special for you. Hold out your hands, close your eyes. The farmer disappeared for a couple of minutes, and then he came out and put an adorable little puppy in Jack's hands. He was so excited. He'd never had a puppy before. Thank you, sir, he said. And he started walking home, and he was petting his puppy. Oh, that puppy felt so soft. That puppy felt so warm. And then he thought, oh, yes. He went and dumped that puppy in the water, in the creek. That puppy shook all over and it splattered Jack. It's cold water, but he didn't care. It was his puppy. And when he got home, his mom said, oh, Jack, what a cute little puppy. But how come it looks all wet and scraggly? And Jack told her the story. And she said, oh, no, Jack. Oh, Jack, you know what you should have done. She went over in the kitchen, opened up the drawer, got out a big piece of rope. She said, you should have tied it around the little puppy's neck and then put the puppy down and he would have followed you home. Oh, said Jack, next time I'll do that. So the next time, Jack went back to work for the farmer. And this time, he helped pick apples from a tree. And he and the farmer's wife and the farmer, they all threw them in this big old wooden machine that would squeeze all the juice out of the apple, and it would go right trickling into a glass jar, one of those jugs with a little ring and a neck. And and at the end of the day, the farmer said to Jack, oh, Jack, you've done a mighty fine job. I'll tell you what, I'm going to give you this here jug of apple juice. Ain't nothing better in the fall than fresh apple juice. Thank you, sir, said Jack. And he started to walk home. Oh, and then he remembered that rope that was in his pocket. So he noticed that the jar had a neck on it. So he tied up the rope to the neck of the jar, put the jar down, and started walking home. Boom, 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 crash. Of course, that glass jug broke. When he got home, all that was left was that little tiny neck of that jug. Well, his mom looked, oh, Jack, what happened? And he told her the story. And she said, oh, no, Jack. Oh, Jack, I just don't know what to tell you. She went over to that kitchen drawer. She got out a flour sack, which looked a lot like a pillowcase. And she said, Jack, honey, whatever you get paid, you just put it right here in this flour sack. And then you put the flour sack on your back and you come home. Okay, said Jack, I can do that, Mom. I sure can. Well, the very next day, Jack went back to work for the farmer. And The farmer had him muck the stalls. Oh, he held his nose and he shoveled with one hand and held his nose. Yuck. And at the end of the day, the farmer said, Jack, my boy, you've been doing a lot of good work this week. You just something real special. He went into the barn and brought out a donkey. A donkey. Whoa! Jack was delighted. Thank you, sir, he said. And then the farmer went on into the house, and Jack started wondering how he was going to get that donkey into that flour sack. The only thing he could figure out was to put the sack on top of the donkey's head. Well, as you can imagine, that donkey didn't like it, not one bit. It went hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. Well, then Jack had to figure out how to get that donkey on his back. Tried to lift him up by the middle, but that didn't work. And finally, the only thing he could figure out is to get down like this and put one foreleg here, and then, he stood up. Woo! Donkey was heavy. Woo! The donkey was hee-haw, 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 and Jack was panting and walking on his way home. Now, as luck would have it, every time he went home, he passed the king's house. Now, the king had a princess, a daughter, that was about Jack's age. And for some unknown reason, she had not laughed, she had not smiled, not giggled, nothing. She was always like this. And the farmer said that if anyone could make her smile or laugh, that person would be given a wagon load of gold. So the princess just happened to be out in front of her house, and she noticed this boy with a red face who was stumbling and hardly able to walk. And there was the donkey going, hee-haw, hee-haw, hee-haw. The princess couldn't help herself. She smiled. And then she giggled. And then she laughed and she laughed. And the king heard his daughter laugh. Oh, he was so overjoyed. He came out and he said, oh, Jack, you must be the smartest boy alive. How did you ever think of such a thing like this? And Jack wanted to shrug his shoulders, but he had a donkey on him and he couldn't really do it. But that king was as good as his word. He went into the carriage room. He got out a big old wagon, filled it all to overflowing with gold. He hitched up a horse to pull that wagon, and then he took the rope and tied the donkey to the back. Jack climbed up and he drove home in style. When he got home, his ma took one look and then she said, Jack, how did this happen? And he told her the story. And this time she didn't say, oh no, Jack. She said, oh, Jack, oh, happy day. I mean, there was enough gold there to feed the family for years to come. Oh, and Jack probably wouldn't have to go back to work until he was a grown-up. And knowing Jack, that wasn't such a bad